Joint Review Committee. This is our annual meeting for the Joint Review Committee meeting before we kind of do some of the more formal elements of our program. Our purpose here is to review the tax increment districts on behalf of our city. You'll hear them referred to as TIDs going forward. These are the areas that we are expanding within Fitchburg. We have a multi-step process that considers the decisions that we make, including the types of expansion, the investments that we're going to make in infrastructure like roads, putting pipes in for sewer and water, and then the costs associated, including a break-even analysis of the work that we're going to be, doing on those projects. Our due diligence reaches into other areas as well that look at other aspects, including natural resources. Those efforts are outside of the purview of this committee, but are part of the overall process. This committee is made up of our 3 school districts for elementary as well as our colleges so that they can consider the impact that the decisions may make in the work that they do. In addition to those school districts, we have a couple of staff folks here, including Mike and Misty, and then we have our partner with Ehlers and Associates. They come on board to help us with the financial due diligence within this process. In addition to our annual meeting of our existing TIDs, we are going to be considering a new TID that has gone through initial review from this body as well as other bodies, including the Common Council. So you'll see discussion of that going forward. I want to thank our team for up to this point for getting us to this point, including having this aired through Fitchburg Cable Access. We're fortunate to have them here to make sure that we've got really solid transparency for both the work that we do as a city, but then how easy we make that for our citizens to participate in that process. All of today's deliverables are also out on our website, so feel free to pull up that content. If you've got any questions, you're going to see some screenshots that carry along, but if you want to do a deeper dive, that's where you'll find that information. We have a full agenda today to get through all of that, so I think I'd like to formally start the meeting. I think our first thing is a call to order. We're officially technically calling this to order at about 3:02, August 10th. Can I get some assistance for a roll call today?
Yes, I will be doing that. I'll be doing it based on jurisdiction. So community member, that's Janelle Rice.
Present.
Excellent. City of Fitchburg representative.
Present.
Dane County representative.
Present.
Madison College representative.
Present.
Verona Area School District representative.
Present.
Oregon Area School District representative.
Present.
And Madison Area School District representative.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Misty. I'd like to ask for a motion for approval of the June 22nd, 2021 minutes. As the chair, I don't think I can make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
I appreciate that. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. All approved? Do we need an approval for that? Yes. All approved?
Aye.
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 Do we have any nays? Thank you. So moved. I'd like to have a second motion for the approval of the June 21st, 2022 minutes. Can I have a motion?
I'll motion that one as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I get a second?
I'll second again.
Thanks again, Mike. All approved? Aye.
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 Do we have any nays? Motion carries. The approval of the approval for the minutes for June 21st, 2020 minutes are approved. I think our next order of business is we are going to take a look at point number 4 for those that are following on the agenda, the review of the public records planning documents and the outcome for that as it relates to, I think we're looking at what, TID number 14 in this motion? Greg, is that something that you're going to assist us with at this point?
Yes, thank you. What was provided as part of the official record for the proposed creation of TID District Number 14 was a copy of the resolution that was approved by the Plan Commission following the statutorily required public hearing. The project plan was also considered by the Common Council, and they also approved the project plan through the adoption of a resolution. If you'd like, I can give a quick recap of the purpose of TID District Number 14. There have been no changes to the project plan that we reviewed at the initial meeting back in June, but I'll give a quick recap of the purpose and intent of the district. So just to recap the general area that we're talking about for TID District Number 14, this is in the Oregon School District, so that's the school district that's applicable here. We have up on the screen the map that shows the general location and the parcels that are included in the proposed district. We have US Highway 14 off to the eastern part of the boundary. Then on the north is Haight Farm Road. And then you'll see just kind of the large area tracts of parcels that are proposed to be included within this district. The general purpose of the district is to include project costs to help support the public infrastructure costs that are anticipated for this area to develop, largely consist of road improvements and core utility improvements as well. It's anticipated that the vacant area within the district will likely develop for a combination of commercial and residential development. The city has been creating this district really to incorporate some larger tracts of land available for development within the city. As the city gets inquiries from regional economic development partners and developers in general, felt that it was beneficial to have some additional larger tracts of land available to facilitate some development. So the general goal is, again, to kind of facilitate expansion of housing and commercial development opportunities. By statute, this is a mixed-use TIF district. That means at least 50% of the area must be suitable for some combination of commercial, industrial, and residential development. So you need at least 2 out of those 3 land uses. There's existing industrial development within the district, and then the new development, as I stated, will be a combination of commercial and residential development. One of the other requirements for a mixed-use district is not more than 35% of the land area within the district will be used for newly platted residential development. So based on the proposed site plan for development within this district, the district is in compliance with both of those land use tests, at least 50% suitable for a combination of residential, commercial, industrial, and not exceeding the newly platted residential test. The project costs, as I mentioned, primarily consist of core infrastructure. The city has also included as eligible project expenses development incentives that the city can choose to award as necessary for a particular project. Any development incentive that is awarded requires a development agreement between the Common Council and the city. The city also typically requires developers to go through what's called a pro forma review to demonstrate that a financial gap exists on the project warranting TIF assistance. The other costs identified in the project plan are the city's ongoing annual administrative costs of the district for auditing, TID reporting, and any necessary legal reviews. The list of project costs that were identified in the original project plan are unchanged. Those are summarized here on the chart. You'll see that the costs are broken down into phases, kind of the initial phase of core infrastructure improvements, and then future phases that the timing will be dictated by the pace of development. There's a few of these project costs that extend just beyond the boundary of the TIF district. Some of the road improvements, for example, it's really the road improvements would extend to the nearest intersection. So part of that intersection is just outside the boundary of the district, but since it falls within a half-mile radius, it's an eligible TID expense because the city wouldn't stop the infrastructure project at the TID boundary. They go to the nearest intersection. And then we've identified, again, those ongoing costs annually to be repaid through the district. We've identified development incentives to be determined. So again, just by identifying that as a project expense and approving a project plan, it's not authorizing the city to move forward with any of these project costs. Any infrastructure improvements will require separate approval by the Common Council. Any development incentives require approval of a development agreement. So this makes this TID eligible expenses by identifying them in the project plan. As far as the infrastructure improvements, the city could choose to fund those on its own and use tax increment revenue to repay the debt service, or require the developer to install the infrastructure and reimburse those costs, or just require the developer to pay for it outright. So the project plan gives the city the financial flexibility to approach the project with any of those financing methods, depending on what best fits the projects and the city's overall financial needs. So we've included a map that shows kind of the preliminary estimate and where a lot of these public improvements are going to be constructed, just in terms of, again, core infrastructure, road work, and utility work necessary to see full build-out of the proposed area within TID 14. There's been an initial site plan concept that's been proposed by a developer within the district. So we've included that, and it was referenced in the project plan as well. So you'll see kind of up on the northwest corner is predominantly some residential development, then a mixture of some of the office and just general commercial uses kind of throughout the balance of the site that is undeveloped. So I know this has gone through some initial approvals with city as far as planning is concerned, but this kind of shows how we went about making those findings as far as this satisfying the statutory criteria for a mixed-use district and making sure the residential by land area does not exceed 35% of the total acreage of the proposed district. We included some estimates of incremental value that could be generated based on that site plan and at least the initial projections on how quickly that development may materialize. So we identified the construction year, and the dollar amounts identified here on this chart are the estimated new increase in taxable value once structures are constructed within the boundary of the district. So we show phased construction, occurring all the way out through 2032. Certainly the faster development occurs, the improves the financial performance of the district because that incremental value is established earlier in the maximum life of this district, which is 20 years. So this is a forecast. Certainly things will change depending on how quickly development materializes, but this is kind of the estimated build-out known at this time. In terms of that total value that we're projecting within the district and over that approximately 10-year build-out, it's estimated kind of based on some tax rate assumptions that would generate tax increment revenue of approximately $59 million to support the project costs within the district. So we're required in the project plan to include a financial analysis, which is a cash flow projection, which was in the project plan. This kind of just shows potential phasing of project costs, either city finance costs or development incentives that might be repaid in the future. Again, none of this is a commitment by the city to undertake any of these costs. It's just an illustration of how this could materialize. Based on this illustration, we're projecting the district could potentially close early by 2042. So again, just to quickly recap, purpose of the district is to promote some commercial and residential development on some vacant land. Primary project costs within the district are core infrastructure costs and allowances for development incentives that the city can choose to use as they deem necessary going forward. So with that, I'll pause, see if city staff has anything further they'd like to add on TID 14, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions as well. Thank you.
I think city staff appears to be satisfied. No questions. Do we have any questions from the floor or from the rest of the team that's on this call? It appears that we do not. Thank you for walking us through that, just kind of as an editorial. This was brought forward on June 21st. Since then, we've had multiple bodies that have reviewed this. Part of this is what's in the best interest for our city from an expansion. Part of this is taking a look at the investments that we need to make and make sure that we are minimally at a break even on those investments as we consider expansion, and clearly that's what our partner does for us as part of that due diligence. So I think our next activity on this particular piece, since this is a new TID, we open it up for discussion. We're going to take a vote on it, and then after that, we'll move forward in review of our previous TIDs. So I think I'd like to turn it out to the team to see if there's any discussion around this or if we are ready for a vote. I will assume that we are ready for a vote.
I would make a motion to approve Joint Review Board resolution approving the creation of tax increment district number 14 in the Oregon School District.
Thank you, Mike. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
I appreciate that. So I think since we've got a pretty significant investment here, Misty, is it proper for us to do a roll call on this?
I don't think you need to, although we
Okay.
can if people are interested.
Terrific. We'll just go ahead and I could have everybody vote who is in support of this, say yay. Yay.
Yay.
A.
Do we have any opposition? TID 14 carries from this committee. So for those that are following along, I think that we are now moving on to the second part of this program, which is really kind of taking a look at the existing TIDs that we've got. And again, for those that are following along, you will see that this is broken up by school district. So if it's not done by number, that's really kind of how we're aligning, is behind each one of those school districts. So the first portion of this is going to be a review of those TIDs, and then we'll go on for discussion and voting, which will then take us forward to acknowledging the filing of those annual reports and compliance. So Greta, I think we turn this back to you again.
Great, thank you. So we'll begin with the Verona School District, which is TID Districts number 6 and TID Districts number 9. So in terms of what the material that was provided to you for TID District number 6 was really just the statutorily required what's called the PE 300 form, which is the annual form that is required to be filed online with the Department of Revenue each year for each TIF district. It's really a summary of the financial activity that occurred in the most recent audited fiscal year. So in this case, we're talking about 2021 for all of the PE 300 forms that we'll refer to generally during this portion of the meeting. This TIF district closed earlier this year by the statutory deadline to close the TIF district, which is April 15th of any calendar year. So all of the incremental value that was generated in TID district number 6 will be returning to the tax rolls, which will impact for the city the budget that is adopted for fiscal year 2023. And as part of that closeout process, there's a final audit that is required by statute. Any funds that are remaining after all TID expenses have been paid get dispersed to all the taxing jurisdictions proportionally based on the tax increment calculation worksheet, which is the worksheet that apportions the TIF levy to all of the respective TIF districts. So I don't know if Misty, if you wanted to add anything further on just the closure of TID District 6.
I will. So first is another piece of good news. We did do the affordable housing extension when we closed this TID as well, and we're able to fund that with cash. So then we did close this in March. The end of year audit showed a significant cumulative balance still in the TID, but we still have some things that we have to pay out as part of this closure. So we had a developer incentive we paid off in April of 2022, and then we've got some pretty significant external debt that we still have to pay off that is able to be paid off in April of 2023. So when I look at all of those projections, we think we'll have about 5.5 million in the TID at the closure. And then as Greg mentioned, that would get dispersed to all of you. The audit is generally required to be done 6 months after the termination, but we did request from the DOR and it was approved to get an extension. So we'll have that audit done for sure by April. The plan is to have it probably September or October. So we're still working through some of those details. We didn't want to pay to have Ellers do the projections if there wasn't too much more activity left. So that's why you're getting the abbreviated version at this meeting. But the audit report will be available relatively soon, and I will email that out to all of you when the time comes.
Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just add, just for the viewing public here, TID number 6 was a really key catalyst for growth on the west side of Fitchburg. This was the reclamation of the former quarry on the south side of McKee Road at Verona Road. With the installation of Fitch-Verona Road, the extension down to Nesbitt Road, that allowed us to create the place to locate the Super Target store in the Orchard Point development, a very successful retail development in Fitchburg. The TID was very successful. We could have closed it earlier, but then we extended it and amended it to install spoke and sprocket to get out front of the Verona Road reconstruction project to provide a traffic congestion reliever at that point in time. So we opened up that area. It also helped to finance the key road improvements that were part of the Verona Road project. It funded the Nesbit and Verona roundabout, which alleviated a significant congestion pinch point. And then it's going to live on beyond the life of the district, not only with the Affordable Housing Fund, but two recent developments behind Super Target. It's adding to our portfolio of senior housing in Fitchburg with the Quarry Ridge senior housing. And then we have a workforce housing development, Limestone Ridge, that just opened up behind Hy-Vee. So this TID was a great development on the west side for the city of Fitchburg, and we appreciate everybody's support for it.
I guess I'm just going to add thank you to the team. Obviously, we put these plans together. There are commitments to be made as far as putting roads and, sewer and storm, and then, if we're going to support the developer, when we can come out of all of those moving parts and actually be right side up and then some from a math perspective, it just really shows the great teamwork and the great planning that went into this. So well done. Thank you.
So the next district that's applicable to the Verona Area School District is TID District number 9. So we'll go through that in a little more detail. So for each of the TIF districts, we've included kind of an executive summary that kind of summarizes the history of the district. Oops, I pulled up TID 10, sorry. So TID District number 9, this was created back in 2015 as an industrial district. The district was amended the first time in 2016 to add some additional territory and update the project plan expenses. And then the district was amended a second time in 2019 to add some territory and also identify some project costs within a half-mile radius. The expenditure period for this district, which is prescribed by state statute, ends on June 9th of 2030, and the mandatory termination of this district is in 2035, but its final year of increment collection is in 2036. In all of the annual reports, we'll be referring to the current incremental value as of January 1st of 2022. That's based on the preliminary incremental values that were released for all TIF districts statewide at the beginning of August by the Department of Revenue. So the incremental value in this district is almost $103 million as of the beginning of this year. The fund balance in this district as of the end of 2021 was approximately $8 million. The city does anticipate making some future expenditures within this district. We've modeled those in our financial analysis, so based on those future commitments, we're estimating that the district would close in the year 2034. So we've included a map that identifies the boundary of the districts. We kind of have the shading that shows what was added in the two amendments, the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, and then the original territory was kind of right here in the center of the district. So this kind of gives some reference in terms of the location of the district. This is South Seminole Highway, and this is Lacey Road here on the south, just to orient you to the location of the district. We've tracked the historical change in incremental value for this district since it was created back in 2015. So you'll see how that approximately $103 million has been achieved over the past several years. There was a slight reduction in the incremental value of about $3 million in this TID district last year. We've projected the increment going forward over the remaining life of the district, and as an industrial district that has a maximum life of 20 years, so that future incremental value is about $37.4 million, just based off of the current incremental value and about appreciation of about 0.5% per year. So we're being fairly conservative in our projections. We're only, at any time we talk about any new value, it's largely due to projects that are known to be in the works. We just want to see in these annual reports if the district can support current and future obligations just based off of the incremental value that's already been constructed. So in the case of TID District number 9, in terms of the cash flow projection, like many TIF districts, the primary revenue source is tax increment revenue. There's also intergovernmental aids that are received by the district. And then if there's debt proceeds for projects that are financed, those are the primary revenue sources for TID District number 9. The city has some existing development incentives and anticipated development incentives that have been or will be awarded in TID District Number 9. So those are referred to typically as MROs, or municipal revenue obligations. So there's an existing obligation for sub-zero. How these work is they are repaid from increment generated directly from the project. So instead of the city, borrowing money in the case of these development incentives, the developer gets reimbursed up to a specified dollar amount and a specified interest rate, if applicable. If the project for which that incentive is awarded does not generate sufficient increment, the city is under no responsibility to pay the full amount of that development incentive. So it puts less financial risk onto the city. So we've modeled some future development incentives related to various sub-zero and pro-mega expansions. Those schedules will be finalized as time goes forward. And then we've estimated a final obligation for Supreme Structures for a development incentive that was awarded. And then finally, there was some projects that were funded through a debt issuance that the city undertook in 2021 for eligible TID 9 projects. In addition to debt service or development incentives, there can be just some cash expended within the district for annual administrative costs, fiscal charges, and we show some future capital outlay in future years based on the city's current capital improvement plan. We're showing those funds being projects being funded through cash. So again, kind of a future forward-looking projection just based off of the increment value that's there already, estimated repayments of development incentives, existing debt service. The district is projected to close by year 2034. So that's kind of the overview and detail behind the current status of TID District Number 9. Thank you.
Again, just for those at home, we're talking about that parcel over on Lacey and Seminole. If you've driven down in that area, you're certainly familiar with the expansion of the new facility from ProMega, as well as a fairly large facility from Sub-Zero, just to kind of give you an approximation of the space that we're talking within the city. Mike?
Sure, I would just add some of the key infrastructure items that this TID is supporting is the Sub-Zero Parkway extension, the Commerce Park Drive extension, and the upcoming Lacey Road reconstruction that'll be happening. And then it also facilitated the location of Hop House and race day events right along Sub-Zero Parkway, and it's adding some additional capacity for much-needed stormwater management in the area as well.
So you'll see for each of the annual meeting requirements, as just a best practice, we recommend the joint review boards just approve a resolution, which is just acknowledging that you've received the required forms. And in case of many of these TIF districts, we're providing supplemental information to give you a little more detail in terms of the performance of the district. So if we're kind of taking these in order of jurisdiction, the first one is for the TID 6 and 9 for the Verona Area School District.
Yep, and I think as just kind of as a point of order, as we transition into points number 7 on the agenda, I think that that's where we take that as a matter of formal business and discussion and voting. Does that sound about right?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So we'll just continue then, I think, with point number 6B, I think we're at, and taking a look at TIDs, 4, 10, and 12?
Correct. Those are related to the Madison Area School District. So we'll begin with TID District Number 4. TID District Number 4 was created back in 2003, also as an industrial district, primarily created to help facilitate the Fitchburg Technology Campus and the Technology Campus 2/Uptown. So this district did have some prior amendments back in 2005 and 2011 for territory and project plan purposes. And then the final amendment occurred back in 2018 to identify some additional half-mile radius costs and some other rail and infrastructure intersection improvements identified within the existing boundaries of the district. The preliminary incremental value as of January 1st of 2022 for this district is approximately $242,368,000. The year-end fund balance in this district at the end of 2021 was just over $10 million. The city is anticipating it will close this tax incremental district next year. The deadline to do that is April 15th of 2023. And similar to the situation with TID 6, the city is going to utilize, some of the increment collected next year to fund the affordable housing projects allowed under state statute. So it's commonly referred to as the affordable housing extension. However, in this case, it's worth noting that the city really isn't extending the life of the TID. It's just using its final year of increment collection next year, or its anticipated final year in 2023 to fund that. So still closing the district, also retaining funds for affordable housing, not keeping the district open an extra year. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody. The district still closes. The city can utilize those dollars for affordable housing and other housing improvement under the statutory requirements, and all the incremental value still will return to the tax rolls, which will impact the 2024 budget for the city. So we've included kind of a map that kind of shows kind of the various components of TID District Number 4 in terms of what was originally part of the district and then what was added through subsequent amendments. So similar to TIF District Number 6, rather large district in terms of geography, but again, all that incremental value will be returning to the tax rolls. Just in terms of kind of the projections here, so this district is closing early. It could collect increment all the way through fiscal year 2027, but again, anticipated that next year will be the final year of increment collection for TID District Number 4. So we've included the detailed cash flow projection in terms of the final costs that will be paid off with this district. Largely consists of debt that has been called this year. There are final development incentives and final cash capital expenditures that were all TID eligible expenses and identified in the prior project plans and amendments. So the city will undertake those final costs. Again, we'll use the increment collected next year for the affordable housing, and then any remaining funds will be dispersed back to all the taxing jurisdictions proportionally. Based on the estimate, and this is subject to change, that amount of disbursement, the total amount that would be dispersed is estimated about $13.9 million. So that will be finalized through final audit, similar to the process that the city has undertaken this year for TID District Number 6. So that's the overview for TID 4. I'll allow city staff to interject as they deem necessary.
So this one, we're very excited to get closed. It is the largest TID that the city has. It's been very successful, which I'll let Mike talk about all the great things this TID has done. But the big reason why we aren't able to close it quite yet is back in 2018 when we amended the project plan, there was that railroad intersection project that was part of that amendment. And we have the contracts in place with those contractors, but the project has not yet been completed. So we're waiting for all of that to kind of wrap itself up before we do the official closure.
And this TID literally transformed the landscape of the city of Fitchburg and allowed us to further the implementation of the Fitchburg Technology Neighborhood. Some of the infrastructure projects included the Research Park Drive and Nobel Drive extensions to create the Fitchburg Technology Campus, which resulted in Gordon Flesch, Tri-North Madison Group, Kamika Instruments. Coming August 24th, a groundbreaking for Encompass Health, a physical rehabilitation hospital. The new Venture Center buildings, which are accelerator buildings. The One Neck IT Data Center. The Kepler Center Processing Facility for Promega Corporation. The Feynman Center, the Molecular Diagnostics Facility for Promega. The Promega Agora Complex. And also the U.S. Highway 14 Lacey Road interchange, which we did during a past recession. That was kind of our local economic stimulus to open up that area for development, and then it will fund those rail improvements. And then the other positive, as Greg mentioned, is this TID will live on with the approximately $5 million that will go into our affordable housing fund for some of our housing plan initiatives. So thanks again for the Joint Review Board support on this. This has been a very successful TID and has done a lot of great things for the community.
And has brought in some organizations that have been not only good employers, but it's just been a good partnership. Greg, I think the floor is back to you again.
Great. So next, we'll turn our attention to TID District Number 10. So TID District Number 10 was created back in 2015 as a rehabilitation district, which means it has a maximum life of 27 years. The district was amended back in 2018 to add some additional territory and to amend and update the project expenditures allowed within the project plan. The expenditure period for this district ends in 2038. Its mandatory termination date is 2043, but the final year of increment collection, if it would be needed, is in 2044. So the preliminary incremental value in this district as of January 1st of 2022 is almost 61 million of incremental value. As of the end of 2021, there was a slight deficit in the district of about $606,000. Based on current projections and kind of cost and some future costs projected within the district, the anticipated closure date is in 2037. As we note here in the report, that's kind of subject to change depending on any other additional project costs that may be undertaken as new development opportunities come forth within this district. So we've included the map that kind of shows kind of the general boundary of this district in terms of kind of its size. So again, also kind of a larger TIF district. Fitch Hatchery Road kind of runs here kind of through the center of the district, just to kind of orient you in terms of kind of where we're looking at. So kind of a larger district, again, a rehabilitation district, really to try to promote some redevelopment opportunities. And there's already been a lot of examples of success of that since the district was created. So in terms of the incremental value that's been generated within the district since it was created, again, almost 61 million of incremental value, most of which has been generated over the last 3 construction years from 2019 through 2021. There is another development that was approved, this year along Ocala Drive. So we're estimating that that's going to generate another 32 million of incremental value as well. In terms of the tax increment revenue over the remaining life of the district, so we just take kind of that existing incremental value, the estimated value from the Ocala Drive project, and then just have some appreciation of 0.5%. Over the 27-year life of the district, it's estimated that would generate about 43 million of tax revenue. In terms of the cash flow projection and performance of this district, really the primary revenue stream is tax increment revenue and just debt proceeds as the city has funded some capital projects. There's a development incentive for the Plesco project, and so we have the estimated repayment of that development incentive. There was capital infrastructure projects financed for Fitch Hatchery Road in 2019, so there's debt service that's being repaid by the district. There's an estimated development incentive for the 3101 Fitch Hatchery Road project, the old juice plant site. So we show the estimated repayment of that development incentive as well. And then the balance of the Fish Hatchery Road, at least the TID 10 portion of it, was financed, well, all of it was financed in 2020, but we show the TID 10 portion of that debt service and that bond issue as well. And then the estimated development incentive of $1 million for the Ocala Drive project. And then we just forecast some additional annual administrative costs to the district. So kind of based off of existing obligations, some development incentives that have been awarded, but the repayment schedule is still, will still be finalized. And the projected closure of the district is 2037, which is earlier than its final year of increment collection in 2044. So the district has really provided a great opportunity to bring some redevelopment projects to fruition, which I'm sure Mike will speak to, and also allows the city to partner and cover some of the cost of Fish Hatchery Road. The city covered the balance on its own, but the TID 10 portion was financed through the 2 debt issues. So so far things are looking positive for TID District 10.
This was the one that I was the most excited to see. So when TID was first created, it was a project-specific one, similar to how Fitchburg generally does our TIDs. And there was a bit of a change. This was one of the larger area TIDs that we have open as of now. And Fish Hatchery Road was a big undertaking for us financially. But this projection is fantastic. Based on all of that, with no future development, we think we'll be able to close it in 2037. Whereas of last year, we weren't sure that we were going to be able to close it early at all. So lots of great investment that's come to that corridor.
Mike?
We're very excited about this TID. As Misty indicated, we took a leap of faith on this one, that if we reconstruct Fish Hatchery Road, a generational project, that hopefully the private sector would come back in and provide investment, and that's exactly what they're doing. Some of the projects already in this corridor, the UW Credit Union Building, the new Park Bank branch right at Fish Hatchery Road and Greenway Cross. And this is transforming what developed as the town of Fitchburg into the city of Fitchburg out today. We've got the Highline Senior Affordable Apartments, the Terrace Point, which was the reclamation of the juice plant, 157 apartments and 10,000 square feet of commercial. Now we've got the Oshala Mixed Use Building, which is under construction just to the east of the UW Credit Union Building. And then two other projects that are kind of in the pipeline out there. One would be in the district is Traceway North from Plesco. We're kind of waiting to see where that one is at. They're getting some kind of construction cost estimates. And then one that will extend outside the district that'll go immediately to the bottom line of the general fund is hopefully a project along Index Road just east of the Avalon senior housing that our development partners at Venture Capital are bringing forward 170 market rate apartment unit project there. So we're excited about that to move forward. But very successful TID, and we've got more projects in the pipeline, hopefully some redevelopment of some of the existing sites up there that were in the kind of discussion and conceptual phase. So we want to keep the momentum going in this corridor.
I know we had some pretty substantial investments on that particular stretch of road. It definitely has, it's a major corridor coming into our city, and I think it gives us a fresh look as you come in. So thanks, everybody, for your work on that. Any other comments on TID 10? I think we're ready for TID 12 again in the Madison School District.
Great. So for TID District number 12, this district was created back in 2018 as an industrial district. Its expenditure period ends in 2033, and then the mandatory termination date is in 2038, but the final year of increment collection is in 2039. The preliminary incremental value as of January 1st of 2022 is $89,557,000. So healthy amount of incremental value within this district as well. The district had a positive fund balance of about $247,300 at the end of 2021. Again, based on kind of projections, based on project costs committed to date, in anticipation of any projects looking forward, the current projected closure of the district is in 2031, subject to any undertaking of other future project costs or development proposals that may come forth. In terms of the general map and location of TID District number 12, we kind of have that up here to orient you. So this is East Sherrill Parkway right through kind of the center of the district. And then Woods Hollow Road kind of runs north and south there as well. So it just kind of gives you the orientation in terms of the overall size of this particular TIF district for TID 12. So in terms of the actual incremental value, what's been generated since the district was created in 2018, again, about $89,557,000, largely constructed in 2019 and 2020. There's some anticipated additional lab and other remodeling projects underway within the district, estimated incremental value of about $16 million. So we'll have more on that in a year, but that's what's estimated to be added in 2022. So in terms of this district, 20-year maximum life district, so just projecting forward the project under construction this year, appreciation of 0.5%. Over the 20-year life of the district, it's estimated about $39 million of tax revenue would be generated. So in terms of the project costs for this district, the revenue stream is really primarily tax increment revenue. There was some grant funding provided for some projects in 2021 that offset some project costs. And then you'll see there was a anticipated development incentive. This is estimated at about $13.5 million in terms of the principal amount, and then that accrues interest. And so we show an estimated the repayment schedule that was just certified this year for that, or last year, excuse me, for this particular district. And then just projecting forward kind of some existing ongoing costs within the district. So just kind of based off of that incremental value, costs committed to date, it's anticipated by 2031 this district could be in position to close, subject to any other costs being incurred. So that's kind of the status on TID 12. I'll pause and allow city staff to opine as well.
The MRO that's outstanding in this district is one that's still a little bit in work in progress. I do have the paperwork from them in order to issue it, so I expect I'll issue it in the next month or so. But this is that big building right out here behind City Hall.
And this building supports Promega's, it's called the Kornberg Center, 280,000 square feet. And it supports their core product and technology development in life science research, cellular and molecular biology, and genetic identity there. The other thing that this is doing within the Promega campus is they're going back in and reinvesting in some of their early buildings, including the original Promega building there. So that's getting renovated and upgraded, and also the BTCI biopharmaceutical building. So they continue to not only build new buildings, but go back in and reinvest in their existing facilities. So they've been a great partner for us, and we really appreciate them, and they're Wisconsin's leading biotechnology company. So we're happy to have them here in Fitchburg.
I think that moves us on to TID number 12.
I think we're on TID 11.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So that concluded the Madison Metro School District TID. So now we'll do the final two Oregon School District TID districts. So we'll start with TID District number 11. Just provided a copy of the PE 300 form for this district. There really hasn't been a lot of financial activity within this district. Some of the initial development that was proposed when the district was created didn't come to fruition, but the district remains, available to help bring other development projects forth. Just kind of have up on the screen kind of the map of this district, just to kind of orient where this is. So we've got Highway 14 kind of off here to the west, and then we have County Highway MM kind of running on the other balance of the border of this district. So no cash flow to go through here, just giving you just kind of the orientation of the district, and I'll let city staff add anything further.
Yes, this is another one where we didn't want to engage Ellers because there wasn't much activity. But I'd like this TID as an example of why we do TID the way that we do. We don't, as the TID, go in and put in a bunch of infrastructure unless we know there's a project to help pay for it. That fell through before we had too much cost. So yes, there's a little bit of a loss, $35,000 or less, but that's not as much as it could have been if we had done the more traditional TID model of we put the infrastructure in first.
Mike, anything?
And on this one, the initial developer decided not to move forward, but we've identified a new development partner by the name of Royal Capital Group out of Milwaukee. They've been working with our city staff planning team, and they've already got an approved plan development district general implementation plan that envisions about 350 housing units, a blend of rental and ownership, and 80 senior housing rental units, and then 30 to 40,000 square feet of commercial space. They plan to submit the specific implementation plan on August 23rd to be on the September 21st Plan Commission. And hopefully, if all goes well through the end of the year here, then they would look to start to extend infrastructure in as soon as they can get in the ground in 2023. So we're glad to have this one back on track again, and we think we've got a good partner with Royal Capital.
Outstanding. Anything else on 11? I think that moves us on to the final TID for discussion, which is 13.
Yes, thank you. So TID District number 13, this was a mixed-use district created back in 2018. The expenditure period ends in 2033, and the final year of increment collections in 2039. In terms of the preliminary incremental value as of January 1st of 2022, $17,382,000 is the incremental value in this district. At the end of 2021, slight deficit of $70,000 in the TID fund. Again, based on kind of the current projections, subject to future costs and development, the cash flow for this district shows projected closure in 2035. So in terms of just the map, in terms of the location of this district, we kind of show that here, kind of depicted on the screen. So we've got East Sherrill Parkway, Green Marketplace, kind of over here to the eastern portion of the boundary. This district, was amended to kind of expand its territory. So we kind of show the original boundary and then the parcels that were amended through the First Amendment. So this encompasses the entire present boundary of TID District number 13. In terms of the financial analysis, as I mentioned, the incremental value that's been generated is approximately $17.3 million. There's been steady increases in incremental value within this district since it was created, as shown in the actual column. There is a quick trip that's under construction in 2022. That's estimated to have an additional incremental value of $3.4 million. So as with all these supplemental reports, we're really only showing the current incremental value and any known projects under construction in our projections. So for this district, 20-year maximum life, same methodology, about a 0.5% appreciation, known development would project about $7.5 million of tax increment revenue collected over 20 years. In terms of the performance of this district, we have the tax increment revenue as the primary revenue source. We did show a transfer here from TID District number 9, just to kind of explain what that is. The city financed some projects in 2021 that was initially intended to finance, tax incremental district projects in general. The bulk of those were anticipated to be in TID District number 9. There were other project costs that the city could use some of those bond proceeds for TID District number 13. So they allocated some of that debt for eligible costs into District number 13 instead of doing, a separate financing later for those project costs. So some of that debt service was allocated from that 2021 issue, since those projects will be used on TID 13 project expenses. So we show kind of that modest deficit, just due to timing of projects. Deficit may increase a little bit in the near term, but then starts to recover and projected, to satisfy all known existing costs by 2035. So that's kind of the financial projection for this district at this time. And I'll let city staff provide additional comments.
The big expenditure on this one, that capital outlay, is the Sayin Road project that's under design at this point, but we'll hopefully begin the reconstruction soon. And so when we were talking about that transfer of the proceeds, so it was the Lacey Road project as part of TID 9 that got delayed by a year plus. So we wanted to spend that money instead of issuing and spending more money to issue debt, repurpose it here on a project that we knew was moving forward.
Thank you, Misty. Mike?
TID 13 helped facilitate the location of Phoenix, a division of Shine, a neutron imaging company, not only their headquarters, but also their imaging facility there. So great company, a lot of University of Wisconsin engineering talent that is part of their workforce and everything. So we're happy to have them as a community business and partner with us. As Greg indicated, we've got the Quick Trip that is well under construction and anticipated opening in early October. And then the TID also helped to finance Green Market Place and Central Park Place. That will open up some additional land in that area to make it a little bit more development ready for it. So hopefully we'll see some additional development activity coming forward in this particular area.
So I think that was our final TID as far as a summary. Two things that kind of jumped out at me. So we've got TID number 11 that for discussion's sake has kind of been sitting there in mothballs. We're expecting that to start getting some energy behind it in fairly short order. Outside of that, I'm hearing pretty healthy forecasts for the balance of our TIDs. Do we have any concerns that haven't been kind of brought forward at this point?
The one concern that I think we may have talked about last year was in TID 9, which is the one at Seminole and Lacey. And those are anchored, or the biggest projects through that TID are manufacturing buildings. And so there was that uncertainty with the Department of Revenue and how they assess manufacturing properties. And so the bad news, I guess, for the TID is that the values came in quite a bit less. So Greg pointed out that the value decreased this last year. That kind of hides the story because we thought it would go up quite a bit, but it actually decreased. The way that the TID recovers from that, though, is that the bulk of the incentive is a pay-as-you-go incentive or that municipal revenue obligation. So the only way that the TID pays out that incentive is if that tax incremental revenue is generated. So while the value decreased, that building or that developer or project doesn't have to pay as much in taxes, it also means that they'll get less in developer incentives. So that was all modeled in what Greg put together and why we're still able to close that district and not take a hit for that when the values went down.
So I think if, in the scheme of things, we'll count ourselves fortunate. So I think that really finishes the review portion of what we're doing here. Again, for those that are following along, we're on point number 6 of your agenda. So now we really transition into points number 7, 8, and 9, which would be specific action behind each one of these TIDs. And so again, what we do is we break down in point number 7, those districts that are part of Verona. Point number 8, those districts that are part of Madison. And point number 9 would be those districts that are part of the Oregon School. And so as a result of our action, we will be filing an annual report in compliance as part of our next steps on this. Any other discussion before we move forward? So I think what I'm going to ask for some assistance with, Greg, I'm going to ask if we've got some specific language that we need to be sensitive to in integrating into point 7, 8, or 9, any language. Otherwise, I'm just going to roll forward on point number 7 and ask us to take action to move forward for a vote, a motion that would allow us to file the annual reports in compliance as it relates to TID 6 and TID 9 on behalf of the Verona Area School District. My only point of order before we go to that, Misty, Mike, do we need everybody on this body to vote, even though it only applies to that one school district?
No. So while we're kind of operating as one large joint review board, when we do each one of these separate action, it'd be only the school district that applies that should be voting.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. Of course. So can I have a motion to file, I'm sorry, Mike, did you have your hand up? Oh. Can I have a motion to file the annual reports and compliance on behalf of TID 6 and 9 covering the Verona Area School District?
I'll motion.
I appreciate that. Can I have a second?
I'll second. This is Lori.
Thank you, Lori. All those approving the acknowledgement of filing of annual report in compliance with the annual meetings for TIDs 6 and 9, please say yay.
Yay.
Yay. Opposed? Motion carried. I'd like to move forward on the same motion on behalf of TIDs 4, 10, and 12, covering the Madison Metro School District. Can I have a motion for approval?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you again, Lori. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay? The ayes carry it. Point number 9, Oregon School District, TID 11 and TID 13. Can I have a motion to approve the action for the Joint Review Board acknowledging annual reports and compliance to be filed on behalf of those two TIDs?
I'll motion for that as well.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I will second.
Thanks again, Lori. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes carry it on point number 9. I think that wraps up our business. Do we have any other final comments before I ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting? Mike?
I just wanted to extend a thank you and appreciation to our taxing entity partners. Together, we're doing a lot of great work for our community, expanding tax base growth and employment and redevelopment and reclamation of some of those troubled sites environmentally here. And then just want to extend thanks to Greg, our partner there at Ellers, and Misty and the whole team at City Hall that helps to put everything together and keep us on track with a lot of the TID activity that we have here in Chad and administration and the support of our local elected officials with Fitchburg Common Council.
Absolutely. You know, anybody that's dialing into this session, there is the old saying, it takes a village to do this. These are not insignificant efforts by any stretch of the imagination in making sure that we get our financing done right, that we're considering our natural resources, we're considering all of the pieces that need to make this a healthy city. And so, yeah, appreciate everybody's due diligence on this. Any other comments? So I think on that point, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn the annual meeting of the Joint Review Board at 4:00 sharp. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. So moved. Thank you.